What if the real workplace disruption isn't tech or turnover, but untreated menopause? Welcome to the Mr. Menopause Show, where facts meet feelings and education meets empowerment. This episode is a must watch for anyone navigating menopause on the job or leading those who are. From the hidden fears women face in silence to the powerful steps companies can take to become menopause supportive, today's show delivers clarity, compassion, and practical tools you can use right now. This is the Mr. Menopause Show with your host, certified and award winning menopause and healthy aging strategist, author, and speaker, Tafiq Akhir, also known as Mr. Menopause. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to the Mr. Menopause Show. I'm your host, Tafiq Akhir. And listen, you can think of me as your no fluff, fact forward guide to thriving through midlife and beyond. Now, whether you are tuning in from your car, your kitchen, or secretly streaming this in your office with one headphone in your ear, well, first of all, thank you for joining me. You could be listening to anything right now, and the fact that you chose this conversation means everything. Now, let's talk about something real, right? The big, sweaty, brain foggy elephant in the office, right? Menopause doesn't stop at the office door. It doesn't politely wait until after hours. It's not something that women can schedule around a presentation or push to the weekend either. It is a whole body, whole life experience. And yes, it shows up at work. And I want to be clear about this. This isn't just about symptoms. This is about the real impact menopause has on a woman and how she thinks, feels, moves, performs, and connects. Physically, it brings things like hot flashes, insomnia, and joint pain. Mentally, it can lead to anxiety, brain fog, memory issues, and low confidence. And emotionally, it can feel like a roller coaster, grief, irritability, sadness, numbness, and doing all this while still trying to be a leader, a provider, a parent, a partner, a friend, and yes, a professional. And here's the kicker though. Most women don't even talk about it. Not at work, not even with their managers or their coworkers. They simply suffer in silence. They smile through the symptoms and push forward because they feel like they have no other choice. But they do have a choice, and so do you. Because if you're listening and you're in a position to help shift workplace culture, that's what you should do. Because menopause isn't just affecting women at home, it's impacting their social lives, their mental health, their confidence, and their work lives too. So today, I want to answer a simple but deeply misunderstood question, and that is, what does menopause in the workplace actually mean or look like? Not in theory, not on paper, but in real life, how it feels, how it shows up, and what it costs when we ignore it, right? So let's dig into what menopause in the workplace actually means. Let's get real about something that most leadership doesn't even talk about. And honestly, most people at work don't even see until it's too late. And when we say menopause in the workplace, we're not just talking about biology, right? We're talking about the silent struggle that's disrupting morale, draining productivity, and eroding psychological safety, and silently pushing some of your most experienced, loyal, and capable employees right out the door. Menopause doesn't clock in and clock out. It walks in with your team. It sits down at the meeting table. It joins the Zoom call. And too often, it's completely ignored. So let me paint a real picture for you right now. This is what menopause in the workplace actually looks like. It looks like a senior manager who forgets key talking points during a presentation. Not because she's unprepared, but because her brain fog is so thick she can't grasp the words. It's a team lead who's questioning her competence because night sweats kept her up again and she's running on fumes, but she still showed up at 8 a.m. It's an executive who's too embarrassed to tell her assistant that she needs 5 minutes alone to cool down from a hot flash that hit her like a tidal wave. And it looks like a reliable employee who's now calling in sick more often, not because she doesn't care, but because migraines and the joint pain are breaking her down. And then those ladies, they start doubting themselves. They feel invisible, disposable, like they're slipping, even if they've been the backbone of your organization for years. Now, let's talk about your workplace, because whether you see it or not, if you have women between 35 and 60, it's happening. First is the impact on morale. Women who once led with confidence now shrink in meetings. They stop speaking up. They second guess their value. And when leadership stays quiet, they feel abandoned. You can't expect someone to stay fully engaged if they feel like their very real struggles are being minimized, dismissed, or worse, ridiculed. Next is the impact on retention. Now, here's a stat that should concern every HR department. 1 in 10 women leave the workforce because of unmanaged and unsupported menopause in the workplace. And these aren't new hires, right? These are senior team members, directors, mentors, legacy holders. They walk away not because they want to, but because they don't feel supported, right? And guess what? Replacing them costs time, money, and morale across the board. And then there's the impact on productivity. You know, those projects that stall or stretch out, the loss of momentum, it's not always performance. It's often about pain. Women struggling through menopause may be mentally sharp, but physically wrecked. Fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, it all chips away at focus, creativity, and consistency. But instead of asking why, too many workplaces assume they've just checked out. Wrong. They're doing everything they can to stay and to hang on. And then there's the impact on psychological safety. When your staff feels like they have to hide what they're going through to be taken seriously, when they're afraid of being seen as less capable, right? When they avoid asking for what they need because there's no policy, no precedent, and no understanding. That's not a healthy culture. That's a pressure cooker. And over time, it breeds resentment, burnout, and disengagement, not just for those directly affected, but for everyone around them who senses the unspoken tension. And here's the part that people don't think about. These women, they're not strangers. They're your wives, your sisters, your coworkers, your friends, your mentors, your partners. And many of you, it may even be you. So if you care about people, if you care about progress, if you care about keeping the heart of your workforce beating strong, then you can't afford to ignore menopause in the workplace because the cost isn't just emotional, it's cultural, it's operational, and yes, it's financial. Unaddressed menopause costs companies in absenteeism, turnover, healthcare claims, disability leave, lost leadership, lower productivity, and lower team morale. But awareness, that's the first step. And guess what? Now you are aware. And now that we've unpacked what menopause in the workplace actually means and looks like, let's zoom in even closer because this next part is where most workplaces go completely wrong, misreading the symptoms. You see, menopause doesn't walk into the office with a little red flag saying, "Hi, I'm hormonal," right? It doesn't come with a neat checklist on somebody's desk. And it definitely doesn't wear a badge that says, "Please be kind, I'm going through it." Instead, it shows up messy, unpredictable, and inconvenient, like a pop quiz during a fire drill, right? And here's the part that breaks my heart. Most of the time, people have no idea that what they're witnessing is actually menopause. So women are just being judged, whispered about, and assumptions made about when people don't even know what's really going on. And let's talk about what these symptoms actually look like at work as well, right? So even like you can start recognizing them, right, for what they are. And what they are really cries of compassion and with no complaints, right? Women are trying to get the attention and things that they need through menopause at the workplace, but again, they don't know where to start because they don't feel supported. But when it comes to symptoms, let's start with the classic, which is hot flashes. Imagine standing in front of your team or even leading a client presentation when a surge of heat hits you like a flash flood, right? But it's actually coming from the inside out. Suddenly, your heart is racing, sweat beads are forming on your upper lip and your forehead. Your chest is glowing red like you just ran a marathon, but you're standing still. Your voice starts to shake, not because you're nervous, but because your body is literally betraying you in real time. Now, in most workplace settings, when someone is visibly struggling, whether it's from stress, illness, or anxiety, there's usually a moment of grace, right? A quick check in, a quick pause. But when it comes to menopause symptoms like this, that same compassion often goes missing. And that's where the disconnect begins. And that's what has to change. Hot flashes are not a personal issue. They're a psychological, well, listen, they're actually like psychological earthquakes that strike without warning. And then women are just expected to sit still and to carry on like nothing is even happening. Then let's talk about brain fog. This is the silent career killer if people don't understand it. Picture this: a woman with 2 degrees, 20 years of experience, and reputation for being sharp as a tack suddenly forgets her own talking points. She blanks on a colleague's name. She rereads the same sentence in an email 5 times and still doesn't retain it. She loses her train of thought mid pitch, and now she's panicking because everyone is watching. This isn't forgetfulness. This is neurological fatigue caused by hormonal shifts. Estrogen supports memory and cognition, and when it drops, it can feel like your brain has a fog filter that you just can't swipe away. She's not losing her edge. She's losing access to it temporarily, and how you respond in those moments, that determines whether she rises or retreats. Next is exhaustion that isn't really being tired. And I'm talking about needing an extra cup of coffee. Not that, right? I'm talking about the kind of exhaustion that feels cellular, right? Menopause fatigue is the kind that like clings to your bones. It drags behind your eyes and makes the basic concentration feel like a workout. Imagine trying to troubleshoot a crisis when you haven't slept through the night in 6 weeks. You're waking up drenched from night sweats, tossing from anxiety, and still trying to show up with a smile by 9 a.m. Now, do that daily while pretending everything is normal. That's the invisible labor that menopausal women are doing every single day at work. And then there's anxiety and mood swings. Now, I'm going to say this part louder for the people in the back, right? She's not emotional. She's not overreacting, and she's not difficult to work with. She is experiencing chemical shifts in serotonin and cortisol, amongst other things, and those are neurotransmitters that regulate mood, stress, and emotional response. That sudden spike of anxiety before a meeting, or that urge to cry at a passive aggressive email, and even that irritability at the project gone wrong, those aren't signs of being unprofessional. They're signs of a system in transition. The mistake that we make is blaming the person instead of recognizing the process. Next, of course, is sleep disturbances. Now, ask yourself this: could you function at full capacity after 3 nights of fragmented sleep? Now imagine 3 months. Women in menopause often face brutal sleep cycles, night sweats, racing thoughts, waking up at 3 a.m. like your body just rang an internal alarm clock. So when they arrive at work foggy, quiet, or slower to respond, it's not disengagement. It's exhaustion wrapped in professionalism. Because rest deprives it just deprives women of being able to thrive at their optimal capacity, right? And it doesn't make the woman lazy. It makes her human because she is responding to things that are happening in her body. And then there's joint pain, migraines, and physical discomfort. Estrogen impacts inflammation, collagen, bone density, lubrication. And when it dips, everything hurts more, literally. So that woman standing for 8 hours at the front desk, she's pushing through knee pain and a swollen ankle. The department head who keeps rubbing her neck, that's a migraine creeping in, not attitude. Right? The one who changed her seat at the team table, her hips are stiff, and that chair has become the enemy. These aren't excuses. These are barriers that women are bulldozing every day just to function. Now, here's the mic drop moment. Most women will not tell you any of this, not because they're ashamed, but because they don't trust the environment that they're in. They've been told it's too personal. They've been told it's not professional. They've watched other women be labeled, passed over, or even joked about. So instead of being seen, they shrink. Instead of asking for help, they just power through. And eventually they burn out, opt out, or drop out. and you lose them. You lose their insight, their leadership, their loyalty, and you may never even realize menopause was the reason. And that's why this conversation matters, because when you understand what these symptoms actually look like, you stop making assumptions and you start creating space. And coming up next, I'm going to share the common concerns that women carry while experiencing menopause at work. And trust me, those fears run deep. But after that, I'm going to give you the exact 4-step system that every workplace can adopt to stop silent suffering and to start building real solutions. So stick with me. I'm Tafiq Akhir, Mr. Menopause, your host of the Mr. Menopause Show. I'll see you right after this quick break.
Take a moment to subscribe for expert tips, real talk, and no fluff support. Brought to you by Mr. Menopause himself, Tafiq Akhir, a certified award-winning menopause strategist, best-selling author, speaker, and the host of the Mr. Menopause Show, streaming weekly on Bold Brave TV. Have you subscribed yet?
Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm your host, Tafiq Akhir, Mr. Menopause here. And look, it's time to dig into a subject that's too often ignored, but deeply necessary to understand. It's an extension of what we've been talking about. And this just isn't about menopause as being biological, right? It's about how it plays out in real time in the professional lives of women around the world. We're lifting the veil on what it means to navigate menopause in the workplace, the fears, the stigma, the silence, the opportunities to finally shift the culture for the better. Now, let's be real for a second. Now, we've all heard the term menopause, but how many people actually understand what it feels like to go through it, right? Especially at work. Now, this isn't just about a few inconvenient hot flashes. This is about real, complex, deeply personal experiences that show up in boardrooms, classrooms, hospitals, construction sites, you name it. And yet they're still invisible to most people. So before we dive in, let me say this. When we talk about menopause in the workplace, we're not just talking about policies, right? Or just putting or talking about things. We're talking about real women, your coworkers, your managers, your employees, but also your wives, your sisters, your mothers, your partners. We're talking about people you love who are doing their best to show up, to deliver results, to lead and care for everyone else while navigating one of the most misunderstood transitions of their lives. And while it's easy to overlook menopause as just another wellness concern or something that will pass, here's the deeper truth. The ripple effect of not addressing menopause reaches far beyond individual discomfort in the workplace. It shapes workplace culture. It impacts team cohesion. It influences employee retention, leadership pipelines, and organizational success. When we ignore menopause, we're not just failing individuals, we are failing the entire system. Menopause isn't just a personal journey, especially in the workplace. It becomes a workplace initiative that needs to be handled. It's a human issue, right? And it shows up as brain fog that disrupts meetings, hot flashes that hijack focus, mood swings that aren't drama, they're biology. And yet for decades, we've treated it like something that doesn't belong in the workplace or anywhere really is how it's been treated, but something to hide. But here's the truth. The average woman will spend over a third of her life in this stage of menopause. And most of that time, right, she's working, she's leading teams, she's running companies, she's mentoring others, she's holding everything together while her body and mind are navigating a storm that no one else sees. So today we're naming the fears, the quiet ones, the ones behind closed doors, installed careers, resignation letters, and that actually say for personal reasons, right? But they get no support. no understanding, no space to just be human. And these aren't small concerns, right? These are the quiet truths that sit behind missed promotions, early resignations, and long exhausted days spent just pretending everything is fine. So let's break them down. First is fear of judgment, embarrassment, or stigma. And why this fear exists? Because menopause is still misunderstood and misrepresented. Many women feel they'll be seen as unstable, weak, or less capable. And this is especially true in high pressure roles where competence is everything. What it feels like, well, imagine sweating through your blouse during a team presentation and trying to pretend that it's just warm in here. Or forgetting a simple word mid sentence and feeling eyes on you, wondering if you're slipping. These moments build up and they wear women down. And did you know that 1 in 3 women feel embarrassed to talk about menopause and 48% don't feel comfortable discussing it at work at all? In fact, Sarah, who is a marketing director in Atlanta, she shared that she once avoided presenting to a client for months due to unpredictable hot flashes. She said, I felt like I had to choose between my career and my dignity. And then Kate, a general manager in Pembrokeshire, well, she said she felt like she was losing her mind before quitting her job because no one around her understood or acknowledged her experience. Next, of course, we want to think of the fear of lack of trust or the psychological safety. And why this fear exists is because women don't always feel safe opening up, especially to males or younger managers who may lack empathy or awareness, right? And what this feels like is biting your tongue instead of asking for time off. It feels like hiding symptoms behind fake smiles because you don't trust that your vulnerability won't be used against you. In fact, did you know that only 1 in 10 women even feel comfortable speaking to their managers about menopause? And Grace Malloy, who is a CEO of Menopause Friendly in Australia, she emphasized that the biggest barrier to support is the lack of trust and leadership to handle it with care. And then there's Denise, a school principal in Toronto, who said, even in a female dominated environment, I didn't feel safe admitting how overwhelmed I was. It felt like showing weakness. And then there's the fear of career consequences and missed opportunities. And this fear exists because many women believe that they'll be passed over for promotions or taken less seriously during this stage of life if they discuss it. And unfortunately, that fear is often backed up by experience. It feels like watching less qualified colleagues get ahead of you while you silently cope with brain fog and hot flashes. It feels like your future is slipping through your fingers, and not because you're not capable, but because you're not being seen. And did you know that over 900,000 women in the UK left their jobs due to lack of menopause support? A manager actually shared anonymously on BBC, and she reported that after disclosing her symptoms, she was quietly removed from a project. And then Monica, a senior engineer in San Diego, she said that after mentioning my symptoms during a review, I noticed fewer opportunities came my way. I felt benched, not supported. So clearly, these fears have merit, and it's up to leadership to step in and colleagues to demand fair treatment. The next fear is lack of employer knowledge or resources. This fear exists because many workplaces have no policy, no training, and no plan to deal with menopause, leaving women feeling unseen and unsupported. And what that feels like is trying to explain what a hot flash is to HR and getting a blank stare in return. It feels like needing help and realizing that no one even knows what help looks like. And did you know that over 50% of women believe their employer knows nothing or very little about menopause support at work? One woman shared with Personnel Daily that she stopped going to HR altogether because her first conversation about menopause was met with laughter and discomfort. And Julia, a nonprofit director in Chicago, she said, when I asked for support, my HR rep told me to try yoga. That was the entire plan. Clearly, that's not support. See, there's also the fear of health and safety risk as well. And this fear exists because menopause isn't just inconvenient, it can be physically debilitating. And when the workplace makes no room for adjustments, well, symptoms can get worse. And for many women, it feels like being trapped in a hot, stuffy conference room with no relief, like being expected to stand for hours in a uniform that causes overheating while pretending everything's just fine. Did you also know that nearly 50% of women say that their menopause symptoms negatively affect their ability to work safely? A train driver in the UK had to call in off of work, not for her own health, but because she was exhausted from caring for her partner's menopause symptoms, right? See, it doesn't just impact the women experiencing menopause. It impacts all of us who love and care for them. And of course, there is the fear of company culture and the change of resistance of change, right? And let me just reiterate that. It's the company culture and the culture's resistance to change, is what I meant to say, right? Because many women feel like they're the only ones going through it because no one's speaking up. And they're desperate for leadership to acknowledge that menopause isn't a private issue, that it's a workplace reality. It feels like hiding in the bathroom during a hot flash and wondering if anyone even cares. It feels like scrolling job listings, hoping to find a place where menopause isn't treated like a dirty word. See, 84% of women want better menopause support at work and say it impacts where they choose to stay or leave for work as well. Charlie, a civil servant, said her company's menopause awareness training made her feel seen for the first time in years. Right? And then a major fear is lack of male support in the workplace. And I have to say that support can't just come from women. Men must be included in the conversation to create truly inclusive and educated environments. Male coworkers avoiding the topic altogether or making awkward jokes, cut it out. Managers feeling uncomfortable offering flexibility or accommodations because they don't understand what's actually happening. Well, this is why menopause policy is so important. 32% of men have never even discussed menopause at all, and 61% wouldn't know how to help a colleague going through it if they did. A male executive actually said, I had no idea that my top performer was dealing with menopause until she broke down in my office. And I wish I had known sooner. See, sometimes there is help, but if they don't know that you need help, they don't know what to do. So this is kind of a two-way street. Menopausal women do need to find a way to feel safe enough that they can speak up, but the leadership, the managers, and the supervisors need to be able to provide an area or a space or a culture where women feel that they can do it. Right? So that they can do this and they don't want to feel like they're hurting their teams, their culture, their companies, right? They want to be there. And here's the good news. You can do something about it. So if you've been listening and thinking, wow, I had no idea it was this layered, this emotional, this common, well, you're not alone. Most people don't. But that's why this show exists. That's why you're here. And that's why this conversation matters so deeply. Because the truth is, when we start treating menopause not as a taboo or inconvenience, but as a normal, powerful, and deserving part of life, we don't just create better work environments, we create stronger communities, healthier families, and more resilient organizations, and a culture that finally walks its talk on inclusion and support. And coming up next, I'm going to walk you through the exact steps that companies can take to move from passive bystanders to active allies. We'll break down the simple 4-step workplace strategy, which is to assess, address, adapt, and ascend. And that will show you exactly how to build a menopause-informed culture, one smart move at a time. And coming up next, every leader, every HR manager, every change maker needs to hear this. So don't go anywhere. Come right back after this.
Clients are raving about Tafiq Akhir, widely known as Mr. Menopause, for helping them manage menopause and healthy aging with confidence, grace, and complete autonomy. Don't just take my word for it, listen for yourself.
You don't have flashes, Tafiq. I don't have hot flashes. That's crazy. Isn't that great?
I have diabetes. My A1C, which is the amount of sugar you have in your blood over a 3-month period, was an 8.6, which is horrible. It's just really, really awful. And so I went to the doctor like a week and a half after the 8-week program, and it was a 5.6. Now that's better than normal people have. My doctor took me off medication. It's just crazy.
I sleep better, absolutely. I have a lot more energy during the day.
I highly recommend it for those who are struggling with weight loss, obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, because my numbers have come down.
My back got lift. I have a little bit of abs, and my arms looks great.
Tafiq is very motivational. He sends daily emails. He's available if you have any questions.
It's just a great program. Excuse me. He just changed my life. He just gave me a life back that I just didn't think I could have, and I'm so grateful for him. And he dedicated 100%, 125% to us.
Feeling inspired? Take the first step to menopause empowerment. Complete the free menopause readiness quiz at menopause-readinessquiz.com to see if one of Tafiq's programs can help change your life. You deserve support. You deserve to thrive. Complete the quiz today.
Again, I'm your host, Tafiq Akhir, Mr. Menopause here, and we are in the final stretch of today's vital conversation on what menopause in the workplace really looks like, and more importantly, what can be done about it. Now, this topic, it's not just timely, y'all, it is transformative, because we're not just talking about menopause as a medical event. We're talking about menopause as a workplace reality that deserves awareness, compassion, and change. Every statistic, every story, and every lived experience that we've touched on today highlights the same truth. Too many women are silently struggling. Too many leaders are unknowingly overlooking them. And too many companies are leaving potential profit and people behind because they haven't made menopause part of the conversation. Now, we've talked about what it feels like to go through menopause at work. We've uncovered how symptoms show up and derail not just comfort, but performance, confidence, and connection. And we've explored the fears and frustrations that women carry in silence, afraid of being misunderstood or dismissed. But here's the truth. That can't be ignored because when you ignore menopause, you're not just ignoring symptoms, right? You're ignoring some of the most seasoned, skilled, and valuable employees that you have. You're risking burnout, disengagement, and departure, not because these women can't handle their work. It's because their workplace does not yet know how to support their health or their needs. This moment is about shifting from empathy to action, from nodding along to doing something meaningful, because menopause isn't a woman's health issue only. It's also a workplace issue. And when we address it together, everyone benefits. So now let's move into action. And if you're in a position to lead, support, hire, promote, manage, or influence culture at your workplace, this is the part where you lean all the way in. Because menopause awareness isn't just a nice to have for companies anymore. It's a strategic imperative for retention, productivity, innovation, and most importantly, humanity. And the way that we get there is with proven practical frameworks that are designed to help organizations move from confusion to clarity and from passive awareness to active inclusion. Now, there are a number of menopause at work programs popping up, but my Empower Pause for the workplace is all about following a 4-step framework, and that is to assess, address, adapt, and ascend so that you can help employees create menopause-inclusive support in the workplace, right? And this is not a theory either. This is actually something that is in place that actually helps. So I'm going to start with step 1, which is to assess. And this is really about understanding the landscape, because every workplace has a culture, but most workplaces don't know how that culture impacts women in menopause because they've never assessed it. Now, this step is about uncovering the reality, not assuming that you already know. And you can start by gathering insights. You can run anonymous surveys, create safe listening sessions, and invite feedback from women at all levels, especially those between 35 and 60. What are they experiencing? What support do they wish they had? What do they fear about speaking up? According to a UK Parliament report, 3 in 5 women aged 45 to 55 experiencing menopause symptoms actually said that it had a negative impact on their work and their work relationships. Next, you want to review policies and benefits. Does your employee handbook mention menopause at all? Is it grouped under vague women's health references, or does it actually stand out as its own category? Do your health plans cover menopause care, hormone therapy, or related treatments? See, less than 25% of businesses currently include menopause in their health and wellness policies, despite nearly 80% of women experiencing symptoms. And then you want to look at leadership readiness. Are managers trained to recognize and respond to menopause related challenges with empathy and respect, or are they operating in silence, discomfort, or denial? A 2023 CIPD study found that 12% of managers felt confident initiating conversations around menopause with their teams. Just 12. A true assessment makes the invisible visible. It validates the experiences of the women that rely on you, and it sets the foundation for real sustainable change. Step two, we need to address, right? And this is where we build real support structures. And once you know where the gaps are, it's time to fill them in with more than good intentions, by the way. This step is about translating awareness into infrastructure. And here's how. There's policy development. Update leave policies to include menopause related needs that include flexible scheduling, remote accommodations, or designated wellness days. Not because women are weak, right? Because women, they're managing a psychological and physiological transition that demands time to recover. And right, and when you put these things in place, it actually helps women to feel again more supported. And in 2021, I believe Channel 4 became one of the first UK broadcasters to launch a menopause policy, including paid leave, flexible working, and quiet recovery rooms. And you can also do wellness integration, right? Build menopause into your workplace wellness programs. And that could include on-site educational workshops, access to menopause trained coaches, or health fairs that feature hormone health support. Research shows that companies with menopause education programs see a 50% decrease in stress-related absenteeism amongst their midlife women. And there's facility updates as well. Ensure that your physical environment accommodates comfort. That means offering cool down spaces, having proper ventilation in common areas, and giving access to private, quiet rooms for rest and recovery if needed. And of course, there's medical benefits. Review your insurance offerings. Do they cover menopause related consultations, or hormone therapy, or nutritional support, mental health care that's related to menopause? Because according to the North American Menopause Society, less than half of US healthcare plans provide a full coverage for hormone therapy, even though it remains one of the most effective treatments for menopause. See, support isn't about making special exceptions. It's about removing unnecessary barriers. Women going through menopause are not looking for shortcuts. They are looking for understanding, dignity, and the ability to thrive without punishment for their natural biology. Step three, we adapt. What this means is to normalize the conversation, because this is the cultural turning point, right? You can't change what you're not willing to talk about. And you can't support women if menopause is still treated like it's a taboo topic. Adaptation means creating an atmosphere where women, they no longer feel like menopause is too shameful to discuss, right? It becomes where it becomes as easy to discuss as maternity leave, or mental health, or workplace accommodations, right? And here's how you start. You start with leadership modeling, right? Encourage leaders to talk openly about menopause awareness, not in hushed tones, but with clarity and support. Because when executives show up and they show that their comfort level, or there is a comfort level in talking about menopause, it trickles down. In fact, a Harvard Business Review article recommends that C-suite leaders actually include menopause experiences in broader wellness conversations to signal support from the top. And then there's also DEI integration. Incorporate menopause into diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations. Age and gender-based health experiences are a critical part of workplace equity. Menopause belongs in that dialogue. And according to the Global Women's Health Index, menopause-related inequities disproportionately affect Black and Latino women, especially in the labor-intensive roles. Now, you can also include ERGs and mentorships, right? Create employee resource groups or membership circles where women can share experiences, ask questions, and build support systems around managing menopause symptoms in a professional setting that will still allows for professional growth. And then extremely important here is communication and language, right? Here's the thing. You want to train teams on language that fosters inclusion, right? And that means avoiding jokes, stigmas, or eye rolls when menopause comes up and creating messages that reflect support, not pity. When you normalize the conversation, you remove the shame. And when you remove the shame, you build trust. And when you build trust, women stop hiding and start rising. And step number 4 is to ascend. Become a menopause inclusive leader. And this is where you go beyond awareness, right? And you become an industry example. And to ascend means to lead, to stand out, to boldly say, we're not just talking about change, we're making it happen. And ways to ascend are to become a menopause certified company, right? Get certification from a menopause friendly workplace certification company. And there are, again, many that are rising up. I have one myself. These offer accountability, credibility, measurable standards for inclusive excellence. And it all depends on what company you go with and what their offerings are. But the whole key is to find what's going to work best for your company. In fact, in the UK, and you may notice that I talk about the UK quite a bit, and that's because the UK is far above, way ahead of the US when it comes to menopause in the workplace support. We have a lot of things to catch up on in that regard, and we can actually help with that if we just start talking more about it. And I'm hoping that this will help to bring that conversation a little more to the forefront. But as I was saying, in the UK, the Menopause Friendly Accreditation has driven organizations like Tesco and HSBC to build award-winning internal menopause programs that have been extremely beneficial. You can also mentor other organizations, share your practices, speak at conferences, lead workplaces or workshops, publish your menopause policy in your DEI report. Let others know that it can be done and that you've done it. You can also partner with experts, bring in educators, advocates, or medical professionals to keep your initiatives current, effective, and employee-centered. Partner with community leaders as well who understand the nuances of menopause support across cultures and social economic levels, as well as other women health issues, because a lot of these health issues that women experience midlife cross with menopause as well. Some of them actually trigger other things and can trigger issues like thyroid issues, liver issues, blood pressure, blood sugar. All of those things can be impacted and affected during menopause. And always celebrate progress. Share wins internally and externally. Spotlight employee stories. Highlight department efforts. Make menopause visibility a proud part of your brand story. And consider publishing annual wellness impact reports that include menopause metrics, uptake of benefits, feedback from employees, and cultural shifts over time. Ascending makes your company a destination for talent, not just a place to work, but a place to grow, lead, and feel seen. And this, again, isn't just about helping midlife women. It's about shaping the future of work, because workplaces that support menopause don't just retain talent. They become places where people thrive across every stage of their life. So let me leave you with this. You don't have to be perfect to make progress. You just have to start. And the way forward is to assess, address, adapt, and ascend. It's a roadmap, it's a cultural shift, and it's how we build workplaces that don't just accommodate menopause, but champion the women who are navigating it. Because this isn't just about policy, y'all. It's about people. It's not just about symptoms. It's about stories. And it's not just about compliance. It's about care. This is about creating a workplace where every woman feels like she matters, not just for what she does, but for who she is at every stage of her life. Menopause is a natural part of life, and when workplace is treated that way, they become healthier, more inclusive, and more resilient environments for everyone. Now imagine a workplace where women don't feel that they need to hide their symptoms. norms, where accommodations aren't considered exceptions, but expectations, and where thriving through menopause is a collective success, not a private struggle. And that's the future that we're building. That's the standard that we're setting. And it starts with one decision: to care enough to act. And you, as a leader of any organization, should be caring enough to act. So again, I am your host, Mr. Menopause, your guide and ally. And listen, if you're ready to bring this into your company, your leadership team, or your wellness program, please reach out. Let's build this together, because no woman should have to choose between her health and her career. Not on my watch, and definitely it shouldn't be on yours either. Together, we can lead a movement. We can set a new standard, and we can prove once and for all that menopause belongs in every boardroom, break room, and benefits package. Let's do this. Let's lead the change. Let's show the world what inclusive leadership really looks like. And this happens, another empowering episode, right? So we want to think about of what we're going to be we're going to be talking. I'm going to be talking about what we're going to be coming up with next week, which is all about bone and joint health, right? But we have one more segment for you today, and that is all about Ask Mr. Menopause. And I was able to dig up some questions that I've received over the years that are actually all pertinent to the topic that we're discussing today, which is about menopause in the workplace. Now, I'm your host, Tafiq Akhir. This is the Mr. Menopause Show, streaming on Bold Brave TV, where we turn lived experience into leadership and bring the truth about menopause front and center every single conversation, because that's where it matters, where menopause education meets transformation. And coming up next, a very special segment of Ask Mr. Menopause, again, where I'm going to answer real questions and real solutions, and you don't want to miss this. Coming up after this.
Do you feel confused, anxious, or overwhelmed by menopause? If the answer is yes, don't let menopause hold you back another moment. Take the first step in controlling your long-term vitality with Mr. Menopause's complimentary Menopause Readiness Quiz. Tafiq Akhir, widely known as Mr. Menopause, is a licensed, certified, and award-winning menopause strategist and the go-to source for reliable menopause support. He knows that our level of menopause awareness will determine whether we thrive through menopause or barely survive it. Go to menopause-readinessquiz.com to simply answer 20 quick questions to receive personalized insights about your level of menopause awareness and get the tools to confidently take control of your menopause journey and improve your overall quality of life. Complete the Menopause Readiness Quiz today.
This is Ask Mr. Menopause, where I answer real questions from real people who want to better understand menopause in the workplace and what you may be experiencing or managing someone who is, or simply want to be a better ally. In the meantime, I reviewed all the questions that I've received over the years, as I mentioned earlier, to select some that are specifically relevant to today's topic. So let's dive in. And I have 5 questions for you today. So question number 1 is, how can I discuss my menopause symptoms with my manager without fearing negative repercussions on my career? And this was sent in by Karen from Chicago. Well, this is one of the most common concerns that I hear, and it's absolutely valid. The fear of being seen as less capable is real, especially in a fast-paced or competitive work environment. So here's the key. Preparation and framing, right? Don't start with your symptoms, though. Start with how it's impacting your work, and then follow up with some solutions. For example, I've been experiencing a medical condition that sometimes affects my focus and energy. And I want to make sure that I'm able to continue delivering great work. And I'd appreciate the opportunity to explore a few adjustments that could help if you're open to it, right? Keep it professional, keep it solution oriented, and if possible, bring a recommendation. So whether it's flexible hours, temperature control, or space to take a short break, you're showing leadership actually that by advocating for your needs, that you need support. And it's not weakness, by the way, it's actually about wisdom and wisdom taking action, right? So you want to be able to tell them what's going on, give them some solutions that may be able to help, and give them the opportunity to say yay or nay or be open to discussing it even further. Question number 2 is, what steps can our organization take to support employees who are experiencing menopause and ensure an inclusive work environment? And this was sent by Ravi from Vancouver. Great question, and thank you for being proactive, Ravi. Start with awareness training for management, right? Most people don't support what they don't understand. So introduce flexible policies, right? Temperature control, access to rest areas and flexible schedules, create a menopause support guide or resource list, and most importantly, build trust by encouraging open dialogue without judgment. Because workplace culture shifts when leadership leads by example, as I said earlier, and not just by policy. So true inclusivity isn't reactive, it's proactive. So that's what you want to do. You want to be proactive, and it starts from the top. You know, when I work with companies, one of the things that I recommend is just to start with a simple menopause in the workplace lunch and learn to introduce the topic to all your employee, your staff, your management, all on the ground employees. And then from that, we gather employee feedback from the session, and this helps to dictate the next best steps needed for your organization. Because what works for one organization is not going to work for another. So again, this needs to be streamlined to your culture, because your menopause employees may not have the same experiences and needs as somewhere else. So you don't want to waste your time doing things based off of what you think they need, rather than just going straight to the source and asking them what they need. Question number 3, actually, let me check to see any questions come in during this time. Does not look like it. So again, if you want to call in, please do. If you want to leave a message in the chat, I'm happy to answer. Now, question number 3 is, how can implementing menopause-friendly policies impact our company's productivity and employee retention? And this was sent by Melissa from San Jose, California. Well, in short, it can help tremendously, because companies that prioritize menopause awareness experience fewer absences, higher morale, and stronger retention rates, especially among experienced, skilled employees. Menopause doesn't mean performance drops. It means that support systems need to rise. So think of it as preventative care for your company culture. When people feel seen, supported, and safe, they stay, and they also thrive. Productivity also is not just about performance metrics. Just remember that. It's about the well-being of the people that are delivering those results. Now, question number 4. How can I support a colleague who is going through menopause without overstepping boundaries or making assumptions, or maybe even just putting my foot in my mouth? And that comes from Jamal from Detroit. Good on you, Jamal, for stepping up. Empathy is the name of the game here. You don't need to fix anything also, right? Don't try to fix anything. That's not what women are looking for. You just need to be open, respectful, and listen. Right? You can say, if there's anything you ever need, whether it's covering a meeting or just space to breathe, I'm happy to help. I'm here for you. Simple, right? Small gestures can actually go a long way, but avoid jokes, assumptions, or unsolicited advice. Just be the kind of colleague that you'd want if the roles were reversed, right? Support is about presence, not pressure. All right, and for the final question that I received, this is, what training or resources should we provide to managers to help them understand and support employees experiencing menopause? And this was sent by Lila. Sorry, I apologize. I'm not sure if it's Lila or Layla. If I said that incorrectly, I'm so sorry, Lila, from Philadelphia. And well, here, start with education that breaks down what menopause is and how it shows up at work. So you think brain fog, fatigue, hot flashes, anxiety, and more. All right. And then provide communication tools and case studies so that managers understand how to talk about it without making employees feel singled out or embarrassed. And ideally, bring in a specialist, someone like myself, or even if you want to just do like I said earlier, lunch and learns, or just have a special, you can have a doctor come in, but make sure that the doctor is menopause certified. This is what is also very important, and what a lot of people don't know. And I talked about this in one of my previous episodes, is that most medical doctors do not get menopause training, right? Less than 20%. to be exact. So you might be going to your general practitioner or your OBGYN thinking that they can help you with menopause, but unless they are specifically certified in menopause, they have gotten, I think, anywhere between 1 and 4 hours. It used to be only 1 hour of a lecture that they've gone through in all their medical training. But in recent years, I've been told that that has gone up to 4 hours. But even with that, 4 hours of training on menopause over the whole course of their medical career, that's not enough information. In fact, most doctors say they don't even feel comfortable with the information that they learned in school to even treat menopause. So make sure that it's someone who is menopause certified that you bring on, and just have them to lead a session or provide resources for your team that they can access on demand. Menopause awareness training isn't just a nice to have at this point, right? It's essential leadership development. So you want to think about it that way, right? Now, thank you so much for listening to Ask Mr. Menopause. And if you have a question that you want asked on a future episode, please visit askmrmenopause.com to submit your questions. And you just might hear your name and your question answered on a future episode. You can also click the link in the description to go there as well. Now, I just want to say this, ladies, you're not alone, right? And I always say this: when we ask, we grow, right? And when we grow, we lead. And when we lead with empathy. And when we lead with empathy, everything rises, right? And so that goes for the women who are experiencing menopause, as well as the leaders leading them, as well as the coworkers working with them, as well as the family members who live with them and the friends who are living their social lives with them. I'm Tafiq Akhir. This is the Mr. Menopause Show, where facts, feelings, and forward thinking meet. And don't miss next week's episode, where we are taking one of the most overlooked issues in midlife health, and that is menopause and its impact on bone and joint health. And we're taking it all the way so that you really understand the impacts here and understand why fractures become more common, what and that declining estrogen has to do with your knees and your hips and your joints, and also how to protect your strength and stability for decades to come. It's going to be informative, empowering, and packed with practical steps that you can start right away. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay safe and be well.
Thanks for tuning in to the Mr. Menopause Show, where real talk meets real solutions for thriving through menopause. Next week, Mr. Menopause will uncover how menopause impacts bone and joint health, and what you can do to stay strong, mobile, and pain-free through every stage of the transition. Until then, stay informed, stay empowered, and keep taking care of you. See you next time.